You're watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to some developments in the polity. The Speaker of Ninth House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, resigned his membership of the 10th National Assembly, while INEC is advised to immediately hold a fresh election into Surulere Constituency 1 of Lagos State. The House is seeking measures that will cushion the effect of the recently removed fuel subsidy on Nigerians. National Assembly correspondent Gbajabiamila reports.
It's day one of legislative business in the 10th House of Representatives. Newly inaugurated members of the parliament look ready to tackle the business of lawmaking.
The House further notes
the first motion of the 10th House of Representatives is sponsored by former Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila. It rises on the need to kickstart active measures to mitigate the probable devastation of another severe flood season. The legislators then summoned the Director General of NEMA.
I had the privilege of meeting with the DG NEMA just about a week ago, and he painfully intimated me of the impending devastation from floods that may ravage this country if we do not take immediate action.
After 20 years of cognate legislative experience, it is time for former Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila to bow out of the National Assembly. Having been appointed the Chief of Staff to President Bola Tinubu, Femi Gbajabiamila tenders his resignation letter as a member of the 10th House of Representatives.
At this moment, at this hour, and at this minute, present to you and the Honorable House my letter of resignation from this House.
Then his seat is declared vacant.
The seat of Surulere 1, Federal Constituency of Lagos, vacant as from today. Thank you.
In another motion, the House calls for palliative measures to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal on the people.
All prices of goods and services have drastically increased. Also concerned that the sudden fuel subsidy removal has left millions of Nigerians terrified, thus causing untold hardship.
The motion seeking palliatives to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal is referred to the House Committee on Labor, Employment and Productivity when constituted. The Speaker is expected to announce the composition of critical harder committees that will pilot the affairs of the House, pending the composition of substantive committees. Gbajabiamila, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's take a short break, and where we return, it will be time to speak with our guests of the day, who are Development Management and Policy Analyst Alexander Orji and former Commissioner in Delta State Oil Producing Area Development Commission, Kenny Okolugbo, for discussion on the task ahead of the 10th National Assembly. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by Development Management and Policy Analyst Alexander Orji and former Commissioner in Delta State Oil Producing Area Development Commission, Sir Kenny Okolugbo, for discussion on the task before the 10th National Assembly. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Now, let's start with the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly. How significant is this for the country's democracy? Mr. Alex.
Well, it's a symbolic undertakings by the ritual, as we'll call it now. And what I'm happy is also the fact that it has commenced with, understandings. I watched the elections take place at the House and watched the orderliness to which this, happened, and how indeed everyone embraced the results and the outcome of it. And one thing I want to also mention is the fact that there seems to be more of enthusiasm to work and also to lend supporting hands to one another. I saw it as a joyful awakening, a new beginning that is coming with a lot on the table, a lot of tasks, a lot of daunting things to which many Nigerians are craving for and yearning for, to see that the outcome, especially in the legislative arms now and the Senate, would be able to work harmoniously, especially in being able to dispense these bills as they come and be able to debate them as they should, and also be able to follow the appropriate steps towards passages of these bills. But in a nutshell, I think it's a good beginning in the sense that both the Senate and the House of Representatives took an orderly election manner, and it didn't come as many had predicted as a doomsday. Rather it came as an orderliness or pre-discussed arrangements that were just played out, in a harmonious, friendly handshake. That's where I sit.
All right, so for you, Sir Kenny, I mean, it's 24 hours after the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, and some Nigerians are saying it may not be business as usual for the National Assembly, considering the kind of president we have who has kicked the ground running since day one. So how significant is this for the country's democracy?
Well, the good thing about it is that, first and foremost, we're able to cross the hurdle of electing the presiding officers without much rancor, as was envisaged. Now, what the Senate has to do immediately is to set an example to the House of Reps. There will be no need for us to have ad hoc committees at this stage. Nigerians are growing under the pains of what has happened in terms of the subsidy removal. Yes, we talk about palliatives, but they have to set up the committees immediately, especially the critical committees of the House, in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Now, if you set up those committees without much ado about the politics that is involved, it will send a very strong message to Nigerians that the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, is not ready to do business as usual of delaying the setting up of committees. These committees are supposed to act as oversight functions to ministries and departments and agencies. This will also endear the president more to the House, and this will also enable the president make up his mind on appointing the ministers, even though he has been given 60 days by the amendments that was done by his predecessor in office. He will send the list of ministers quickly to the National Assembly, the Senate specifically, which will be in charge of screening these ministers, and to make the job of getting the economy or rejigging the economy to function better at this point in time, because there are many things that the House has to look into. The PIB is urgently needs to be looked into. If you remember, the PIB is one of the reasons why the fuel subsidy was removed. And you're talking about immediate palliatives that you're going to also provide, and to enable the inflationary trend, which has started. We're still looking at 22%. If we don't check it at this point, it might get up to 25 to 30%. And also review the monetary policies of the central bank, which all this can be done by the oversight functions of the committees that are going to put in place. So putting those committees in place is the first thing they must do at this material point in time.
All right, so before I get back to Mr. Alex, with a new set of leadership at the National Assembly, looking back at the whole event, how will you describe the process?
Is that question for me?
Yes, please.
Please, can you come again?
Looking back at the whole event yesterday, how will you describe the process?
The process of what?
Of the emergence of the new set of leadership at the National Assembly.
Oh, first and foremost, it was the process that enabled the leadership to emerge was very transparent. I don't think we've had anyone that's been this transparent. First, the senatorial race was very strong. It was very steep. But if you look at Akpabio, most of us have said he's a square peg in a square hole. I think he's one Senate president that has been quite lucky in the sense that most Nigerians have accepted the fact that they needed to go to the South and it needed to be Akpabio. I mean, this is the first time you hear a party actually zone a seat and actually zone it with a name. not only sending it to his own, but with a name. And that also applies to the House of Representatives. Now, if you look at Abbas has sponsored 74 bills. That is by no means a joke. And out of those 74 bills, 21 has been assented to by the president. I think that record will be almost impossible to.
Gentlemen, Sir Kelly, let me put you on hold. We have a breaking news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu suspends Bawa indefinitely from office as Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the indefinite suspension from office, Mr. Abdurrashid Bawa, as the Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, to allow for proper investigation into his conduct while in office. This follows weighty allegations of abuse of office leveled against him. Mr. Bawa has been directed to immediately hand over the affairs of his office to the Director, Operations in the Commission, who will oversee the affairs of the Office of the Chairman of the Commission pending the conclusion of the investigation. All right, Sir Kelly, you can go on with your submission.
Okay, so if you then look at Akpabio comes with a very huge experience, having been a parliamentarian speaker even in his university days. He's been a governor that has done 8 years in Akwa Ibom, and he's still to be rivaled with the projects he's done. Well, maybe his stint as the Minister of Niger Delta had controversial sides to it, but at the end of the day, he finished his term in office and tried to become the president of this country, even after serving in the Senate. Don't forget, too, that he was a minority leader as a first-time senator. Mm-hmm. So a lot is on his shoulders now as the Senate president. And he said it clearly yesterday that he recognizes the weight of the office. And so with the support he has gotten from Nigerians, the support he has gotten from his colleagues, I expect that the success story he has had in Akwa Ibom, he will bring it to bear on the legislative arm. And being a lawyer, you know, he's a lawyer too. Most people do not remember that Akpabio is a lawyer. Being a lawyer, it makes it even easier for him to become more knowledgeable on the issues of making laws. And not only making laws, but giving a charge, because now he's the chairman of the National Assembly, which enables the bicameral house, which includes the bicameral house, the two houses of the House of Reps and the Senate. And so in his leadership example will also trickle down to the House of Reps and would also influence Abbas as a speaker, like we saw in Lawan and Gbajabiamila's combination. Yes, we don't expect them to become a rubber stamp, but at the same time, we don't expect unnecessary rifts, which will make the Assembly, the National Assembly, not to assent to a lot of, not to allow some of the bills or some of the executive legislation that could be done by the president. That is one thing we expect the National Assembly to do. So Nigerians will become much more abreast with the workings of the National Assembly, and not one that will just condemn them that they've been taking money and collecting jumbo pays home. That's exactly the way I say.
All right, gentlemen, before we go on with our core issue for today, I would like both of you to react to this breaking news I just read, and that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approving the indefinite suspension from office, Mr. Abdurrashid Bawa as the Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Mr. Alex, you can go first.
Well, I think just an interview I granted to a media house recently, I did tell many that we have a working president now. Mm. The problem we've had in the past is that we've had a situation where people use their offices, and abuse the powers and privileges that come with such offices. I'm not directly laying any claim to against Mr. Bawa. He's been put under investigation now, so it's expected that the outcome of the investigation will be made open. That is one difference, I believe, Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu stands for. You see, another thing is that a lot of people did not know Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and only perceived him based on the insinuations that is out there, which a lot of people, for the sake of election, branded him. But what I'm happy now is that the rhetoric is changing. From everyone you have the conversation on the street now is the same. We didn't even expect that this would be the outcome. And I'm saying this is just the test of the iceberg. You know, when you come into an environment that is so denigrated, the ideal thing would be to, first of all, cleanse the environment. Because so long as you have negativities within an environment, it will not allow you achieve the purpose that you have set out to do. And the one thing that I'm happy is that in any of the so far moves that the president has made so far, you can see the overwhelming joy of the people that he's setting them free. Going also by what we heard, you know, the suspension of the CBN governor. It was welcomed on the street like as if it was a wild jubilation of celebration. So I think there's a lot of things that has been happening in the past that we need to set the games right. We cannot continue to live in a nation where people, you know, have a gross misconduct, you know, and live in impunity and do things because they are the helm of affairs and always get away with it. I think one change is now beginning to re-echo in the minds of those, even those that it has not touched, that yes, this thing will get to them finally. The game is up for the days of impunity because Nigeria is our own country. We have no other country as Nigeria. So if we don't take care of Nigeria, nobody else will. And I'm happy that the president is taking this gradually by, first of all, giving time to assess the situation and not on hearsay. I'm sure that there must have been a fact before the president for him to have made any of the decisions he has made. And if he has placed him on investigation and suspended until the investigation is concluded, that is the ideal situation. And also, it's a right signal to all other parastatals and ministries, which we are all patiently waiting for until it gets to their own turn, because we cannot continue in this barbaric way. We've had so much gross misconduct and abuse of power and privilege. And the worst aspect of it was that these things keep reoccurring in the faces. I remember that in the previous administration, the Nigerians got tired of complaining and as such had to put their rest to their case, because it was as if the more you complain about a certain individual, the more the individual is given more powers and also accumulations. You know, and we're beginning to see some of these debts now that the carpets that were swept under are now being, you know, open. Only God knows what will cover more as the days unfold. So it's a commendable move, and the Nigerians are behind the president. I can tell you that aside during the Jonathan's administration, no other president is getting the same support as what Tinubu is getting currently now.
All right, so Sir Kenny, how commendable is this move?
You remember we had a program just before the president was sworn into office. If you remember that on that program, I clearly said that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have to distance himself from a lot of the policies of Buhari. A couple of people didn't understand what I was trying to say, but that is what is happening now. I remember we also said he had to step on toes, and you also asked me a very direct question as regards that. I remember that program very well. I also agreed with you that there were very tough decisions that the president was going to make. Now, Bawa was accused of paying thousands of dollars for almost 9 or 10 hotel rooms when they went on Hajj. And I didn't see any reaction from him. And it was mind-boggling if we had the almost 300 or 200 and something thousand dollars that was incurred in terms of bills, and the evidence was there. I actually thought he was going to react, because that I was taken aback when I first of all heard that allegation. Because if you are the chairman of EFCC, you must live above board. You can't be incurring a bill of about $300,000 and you say people will not raise, you know, on just hotel bills if it was true, because it was an allegation, which he did not actually react to. And don't forget too that President Tinubu is privy to security reports that we are not privy to. And he's also privy to a lot of intelligence reports that we are not privy to. So for him to have taken this decision, it shows that he must have gotten very serious intelligence and substantial facts that he wants to be further investigated. But one thing he has to do is that he has to make it open to Nigerians, Because Nigerians at this point will want to say, look, we want to know why the chairman of the EFCC is being removed. Hope he's not being removed so that you can bring in somebody who will be teleguided. So those facts and those evidences should be put on the door of the public, or on the court of the public opinion, so that people can judge for themselves. And I expect that Tinubu will certainly do that. He wouldn't have just suspended him from office without making people aware of his allegations. One of the things that Buhari was condemned for was that when he removed Magu, till today, the white paper has not been released. And these were the things that people condemned his administration for. And exactly the war on corruption, which we could not have given a pass mark. And one of the mantras he came into office was security, economy, and war against corruption. So removal of Bawa, Nigerians will welcome it if they are convinced that he actually abused his office. But I just gave you an example of an allegation that was made, and I didn't hear a rebuttal from him. So as the days go by, we'll have to keep our fingers crossed.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a break, and when we come back, this conversation will continue. Please stay with us.